But every now and then you said a word that wasn't in Genesis or Revelations, and it was something that came out, but because you was in your house, you was in your comfort, you said something. But what I'm getting at is it was dark and you could not see. Life often feels like we're walking through a thick cloud of fog, unable to clearly see what lies ahead, and we may struggle with doubts, fears, or confusion that clouds our vision. If you had been up early like I was this morning and it was raining as hard as it was, it sometimes when you're driving in the rain, if the rain is coming down so hard and the wind is blowing, your vision is unclear. And then maybe you just may be like Pastor White. You just can't see no way. It doesn't make any difference if you got glasses on, if it's a clear day or a foggy day. You just can't see. But there's something about every now and then in our lives that we'll be in a dark place. It seems like we're in dark woods and that we cannot see. John here, a man who was born blind, declares, he says, he may be a sinner. In other words, can I put it like this? He said, I don't know nothing about that. He may be he may have done something wrong. I don't know, Sister Keith. But one thing I do know, I was blind, and now I can see. In other words, he said, I can't speak on your behalf, but I can say I was blind, but now I can see. This powerful testimony reminds us that true clarity comes when God touches our lives, like removing contracts of our spiritual eyes, and God transformed power can give us a new perspective on life. There's an old saying that goes, he may not come when you want him. But the saying is said that he is in on. Y'all heard that part too. Even when we can't see our way forward, God is working behind the scene to bring clarity to our situation. A few years ago, we experienced a thing called COVID and a pandemic and learned how quickly our world can be turned upside down, leaving many feeling lost and uncertain. But yet, even in the darkest times, stories emerged of communities of coming together and people finding new purpose, providing that clarity often came through adversities. As Christians, we called to be a light in the world. And when we allow God to touch our lives and clear our spiritual vision, we can help others find their way out of the fog. And by sharing our testimony on how God brought clarity to our own lives, we can offer hope to those who still can't see. This text is focused on the miraculous healing of a man born blind. But I need you to understand that in this culture of ancient Israel, blindness was often seen as a curse on a person. In other words, they was trying to say that this person or their parents or someone in their family had done something wrong, so them being blind was a curse upon them. Here we see that person is viewed as less than whole by society. Physical blindness became a symbol of spiritual blindness that Jesus came to confront and to heal. When questioned about his healing, the man here, he testified to what he experience. Now, we heard a lot of folks test a lie. But here, this man testified about what he experienced. You know, you have some people, because your heart is cloudy, because your heart is foggy. But when you be like this man here, and you can say, I don't know what happened to them. I don't know what happened to her. And I don't know what happened to that family. But as far as me and myself, I was blind, but now I can see. And just as the blind man became the testimony of God's power, we are called to be light in dark world. And by living with clarity and compassion, we can guide others toward one who brings true sight, helping them find their way in the darkness. Somebody says, how do I get clear vision? I'm glad you asked that question, because I'm going to try to answer it, but I'm going to try to answer in 3 different ways. We get clear vision. We all have had foggy eye vision. Some of you don't want to admit you need glasses, but you don't want to go get the glasses. You still want to go to Walmart and tell them to give me number 12, give me number 7, when just all you got to do is go to the optometry and they'll fix your eyes. And sometimes they can correct your blindness. They can correct where you don't see. But here, like this man here, we all have had foggy eyes. And then this man here was born blind. But we all know what it means to stumble through life without a clear direction. Sometimes our vision gets clouded by doubt, worry, and confusion. But the path ahead becomes hard to see, just like driving through a thick morning fog on a backwoods road. Just a few days ago, Brother Keith, we were sitting at the house and we were talking. When I say we, me, myself, and Sister White and Zaire, and we was talking about the next chapter in life. I had big plans. I had seen some things that the way that I wanted him to go. But he said, Dad, I don't think I want to run on the next level. Kind of took me back for a minute, because here it is. I saw where there are 7 schools that wanted him to come run, 7 free schools that wanted him to come run, 7 free schools that wanted him to come run. Let me turn around and talk to the kids. 7 free schools that wanted him to come run, but he says, Dad, I don't want to run on the next level. Son, maybe you just ain't seeing things. Your vision a little foggy. You're not seeing what me and your mama seeing. We're going to come back and we're going to talk about this later on. Go on and get you a little sleep, get you something to eat. And when he came back, the conversation didn't change. But what I like about it, he said, I don't want to run on the next level. He said, but I got a plan. Okay. You got a plan. I'm good with that. As long as you got a plan, because my plan is for you not to be here at the house. That's my plan. So let's listen to your plan. He says, Dad, I'm going to go and I'm going to take the schooling at Shelton State. It's free too. It's a free school. We don't have to pay for anything. I got to find him somewhere to stay. But school is free. He says, I'm going to go to Shelton State and I'm going into the Air Force after I get through. I had to wipe off my glasses because now I was beginning to see. He saw a clear vision, but what I was looking at was foggy, but he had a clear vision. And all I'm trying to say is that when you can see things clear in your life, it may be foggy to somebody else, but long as you can see where you're going, long as you can see what you're doing, long as you can see what God is doing in your life, it doesn't matter how someone else sees things. A foggy-eyed witness sees obstacles instead of opportunities. I saw obstacles because I was like, boy, here it is. We got somebody that's going to pay for you to go to school. Children are begging for this. Children are asking for this. But I saw obstacles, but he saw opportunities. A foggy-eyed witness see problems instead of possibilities. A foggy-eyed witness sees closed doors instead of a new direction. Recently, a young brother by the name of Marcus shared that he couldn't understand why he lost his job. Lost his job at this tech company, and then he told me, he said, but through the fog, he was uncertain that everything that looked that hopeless to him, and he questioned God. For some of you that missed Bible study Wednesday night, I taught them that it's okay to question God. Some of you looking at me confused, like, well, Pastor, what do you mean it's okay to question God? Did not his son question God? Did not his son said, Father, why have thou forsaken me? Where my English teachers at? I know I went to sleep, but now I done got a little older. I do read. Isn't that a question? Do you not have a question mark at the end of that? He says, Father, why have thou forsaken thee? He questioned him. And all I'm saying is it's okay to question God, and why. And here he questioned God to why he lost his job. He questioned his skills. He questioned things that was happening through his life. But through the fog of uncertainty, everything looked hopeless. And as he questioned his skills and his future, even his faith, many of us have stood in those same foggy spots. But I need you to understand that 1 Corinthians chapter 13 and 12 speaks to this. It says, for now we see through a glass, darkly, but then face to face. Now I know in part, but then shall I know, even as also I'm known. The fog confuses, shows up in many ways. The college student struggling to choose a major sees only confusion. The newly divorced brother or sister face a future shortage of uncertainty. The retired deacon wondering about the purpose after leaving his job or his career. These foggy moments aren't permanent conditions. They are temporary situations. And just like early morning fog burns away under the sun rays of our unclear vision, clear shows up under God's guidance. And the question isn't whether we've experienced foggy vision, it's whether we're willing to wait for clarity from God. When clarity comes, aided by the Holy Spirit, that's when we can say, I can see clearly now. 2, somebody asked the question, how can we get a clear vision? 2, I need you to understand that darkness makes light sweeter. The blind man here in the text of simply yet here, it was unshakable testimony. He didn't know all the theological arrangements of having impressive religious credentials. He didn't have no master of divinity. He didn't have no doctor of theology. The matter of fact, the Bible doesn't even say if he had a high school education, but he did have sense enough to know that he was blind and now he can see. He simply declared that what he knew was for sure. One thing I know, where I was blind, he says, now I can see. He says, experience became evidence, and those who have lived in the darkness have special appreciation for light. You know when you came home and you hit that light switch and them lights didn't come on. Oh, don't act like y'all lights ain't never been out before. Don't act like you ain't never been to your cousin's house or your auntie house or your uncle house and you know it's dark and they talking about, now we just want to think, we just want to meditate for a little while. We just want to sit here in the dark and we just want, they ain't got no power. Lights off. But soon as Alabama Power, as soon as they go down and pay that bill there, Brother Garrett, they love the light. I was in the dark, now I can see. And those who have lived in darkness have a special appreciation. And many of us know people who have spent years in prison. They tell us nothing compares to the day that they walked out of the gates. And I ain't talking about no pearly gates either. When they walked out of the gates into the sunlight, they say that they noticed that things the rest of us take for granted. They appreciate the little things. They appreciate the colors of leaves changing in the fall, the ways that the sunlight dances among on the darkness, the way that the water sounds wear a wave out when they hear the waves on the water, and their children faces as they sleep. The darkness taught them to treasure the light. And when we have been blind, you never forget the moment that you first saw. And when you've been blind, you notice details that others miss. When you've been blind, your testimony carries weight. People struggling with addiction, depression, or doubt need to hear from someone who's walked the roads of their life. They need to talk to somebody who's been through what they've been through. You can't tell an alcoholic how it feels to be drunk if you never had alcohol on your lips. You can't tell a drug addict how it feels to be high if you never smoked any marijuana. You can't tell a gambler how it feels to be a gambler if you never made a bet. Those who have made those lives and those who have been in the dark can testify to those that are in the dark of the marvelous light that they're in. Isaiah chapter 9 reminds us the people that walked in darkness have seen a greater light. They that dwell in the land of the shadows of death, upon them had the light shined upon them. Your story matters. The struggle you overcome and the darkness that you escape aren't just chapters of your past. I told them Wednesday night in Bible study, I said, I need you to understand sometimes the struggles that you go through, they're not really for you. They're for you to tell somebody else that the things that they're going through, that God will make a way. The clarity that God has given you instant just isn't your benefit. It's a light for those or someone still trying